Welcome to the Fumblerooski Podcast by Power 88 Dean Radio. I'm your host, Adam Wright, followed by Justin Tucker and Brian Mucker. So, a lot has happened in the past weekend. We had the Super Wild Card weekend that went on. So, we're going to start with Justin's Ravens. They get sweet revenge over the dreaded Tennessee Titans from last year. That was an embarrassing one last year. I'm not gonna lie. I thought they were absolutely gonna win that one last year, and I think they got their revenge. I wasn't sure if they were gonna pull it out this year, but they did. So I'm gonna ask you, Justin, what do you think went differently this time?
First off, let me start off by saying, big trust. Thank you. And anyway, I think the difference was Campbell, Derek Wolfe, Pernell McPhee, and Brandon Williams. Our big guys clogging up the run lanes and making sure Derrick Henry had nowhere to run to. AJ Brown not having many opportunities to catch passes, even though that touchdown pass was pass interference. Ryan Tannehill could not rely on Derrick Henry, and when you have to rely on Ryan Tannehill to win you a game, I like our chances. And then we have Lamar Jackson. That boy is too legit to quit. Oh my goodness. Just when you thought you had him 3rd and 9, sack incoming, he runs 48-yard touchdown. The game is tied. Man, I love my team. And just when you thought Tennessee was going to go down and score, Marcus Peters said, not today. Yoink. Let me get down and let me go to the middle of the field. Did what we had to do and then gave the ball back to Lamar to ice the game. I loved it. I knew this was going to happen. I knew that we were going to stop Derrick Henry. I told y'all that we were going to do it. I told y'all when we didn't have Calais Campbell and Brandon Williams, that was the reason Derrick Henry ran all over us in week 10. And yeah, that was going to be the biggest difference.
He was missing his best guard. Give him a break.
We were missing 2 players, Brian. Our starting D tackle.
It was a joke. His best guard's Earl Thomas.
So Justin, I think you hit the nail on the head there. So that rushing defense last year was atrocious during that game, and they were missing some key pieces up front, and it allowed Derrick Henry to run all over that team, absolutely gashed that Pittsburgh defense, and it turned into one of those games where once that focal point of the offense is working, that all of the pieces are working. So once you shut down that one guy, Derrick Henry, then the rest of the team can't function how it needs to be. Like you said, once you plug up the run and force Tannehill to throw, the Titans are screwed. They can't win a playoff. They can't win a game on the back of Ryan Tannehill. I like him as a passer. He's a serviceable passer, but ultimately, he's not the type who can lead a team to wins by himself. He's a good complement to Derrick Henry, and that's about it. That's what got the Titans so far last postseason, and that's how they were so successful this season. And when you have a Ravens defense that is actually healthy and able to stop them, and when you have a Titans defense that has taken a step back since last season so that Lamar can run all over them. Okay. The Ravens pass offense was not quite what I expected it to be for this game, because the Titans pass defense isn't all that good, and Lamar was just pedestrian, to say the least, in the passing game. But he certainly was able to make up for it with what he does best, and that is running the football. So,
Yeah, that's fine.
textbook win for the Ravens. I think that was very well deserved of this year.
Brian?
No, I ain't talking.
You don't want to talk about this? You don't want to talk about this? You don't want to talk about my team winning and moving on? That's all we got?
The only time I was disappointed in your Ravens, like, yes, I get they jumped on the logo, but at
Mm-hmm.
least show some sort of like sportsmanship.
You funny, but
he's just mad that your team won, Justin.
He said show sportsmanship. What about the Titans showing us sportsmanship? Like, respect is a two-way street, Brian. If you want us to respect you, respect us first. And they didn't show us any respect during Week 10, like at all.
I mean, I'm old enough to remember back during that playoff game. Well, after that playoff game, during the press conference, one of the Titans players was mocking Mark Ingram. I thought it was funny, but it was nonetheless not
hilarious.
Sportsmanship. It was great that Derrick Henry was able to shut it down and go like, yeah, it was all jokes, but it was all jokes. They were just poking fun, but it was. I'm sure the Titans were having a fun time on that run, but. No run this year. This year they're out in the wild card round.
Yeah, enjoy it, Justin. The Bills are going to come for you.
All right, so looking ahead to Ravens-Bills, who has the edge?
Bills.
Ravens.
I'm going to have to agree with Brian here and say the Bills. The Bills are a more well-rounded team. They have a better offense. The Ravens' defense is a little better, so I think that'll give them problems and keep them on their toes. It'll make it a closer game. But I think the more balanced team prevails in this one, and I think the Bills take it and head to the AFC Championship. All right, heading into segment 2, we have we're going to be partying like it's 1994 and 1995. The Bills and the Browns winning their first playoff games in a quarter century. So, solid round of applause for these two teams. So many years of mediocrity. Now they win their first couple playoff games. And these two guys, Baker Mayfield and Josh Allen, they're actually draft classmates, being Baker Mayfield being drafted first overall and Josh Allen drafted in the top 10. So
I was in that class too.
So to follow up on this, what are the chances of either of these teams making the Super Bowl?
This year, the Browns and the Bills? It's possible. The Browns have to get past Kansas City, which is easier said than done. And the Bills have to get past the Ravens, which won't be easy at all. It's possible, but very unlikely, I believe.
So this is what I have to say about this. The Bills have a chance. The only thing I have with the Bills' defense is that Lamar has like a lot of tricks, obviously. Like he can either run it with Dobbins going through the middle, or he could just cut to the inside and screw the Bills' defense over. With the Bills' offense, yes, the defense of the Ravens is good. Yes, the Bills' offense is good. So that can go either way. When it comes to the Browns and Chiefs have a shaky defense. Chiefs have a better offense. Browns, to me, I think they have a better defense than the Chiefs, and their offense is there too, but I think the Chiefs is better. So I'm going to say with those two games, you go either way.
So to tell you the truth, I disagree with you, Brian, on the Browns. Their defense is not as good as the Chiefs. I know the Chiefs' defense is shaky, but so is the Browns. I mean, they have Jason Garrett, and that's it.
Especially now.
The Browns had half their coaching staff out and their best corner, which was Denzel Ward. That's why they lit up that many points against the Steelers. I think that's the main reason, but I don't know. I really can't say.
Okay, so
that's a fair point. I think once they become more healthy on defense, they'll start to make a difference. But I'm not sure if that will lead to a difference in scoring when it comes to Kansas City because they score in bunches.
They've had Denzel Ward all season, and that secondary has been iffy all year. I'm just saying that the defense has been nothing special this year. Even the rushing defense, with Jason Garrett up front, or not Jason Garrett, Miles
Miles Garrett.
up front, with Miles Garrett up front and other bigger presences up front. They just can't. They just can't. They're not scary, and I don't think it's nothing that Patrick Mahomes, Tyreek Hill, and the boys can't stop.
Well, I mean, I have to agree with that because like Miles Garrett can easily get to the quarterback depending who's on him, but like I think Miles Garrett with his, especially with his like legs, like though he jumps off that line like a maniac, so he can easily get to the quarterback. And with let's see, I think I have like Sheldon Richardson in the middle, and then you got B.J. Goodson, basically the captain of that not that offense, it's their defense, and then in the corners you got like Denzel Ward, safeties you got what's his name from Jacksonville, I always forget his name.
Ronnie Harrison,
yeah. So I mean, they got guys. I'm sure there's others. I just really can't think of right now. But I mean, I don't know. I think Denzel Ward is. I'm assuming if he plays in that game, he'll be matched up against Tyreek Hill, which will be a tough challenge for him. The question is, how can they stop Travis Kelce?
It's pick your poison with that offense. Even if you do find a way to stop Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce, that offense still won't be shut down because they still have players such as Mecole Hardman and Demarcus Robinson and the likes of Sammy Watkins. So, and if you're Patrick Mahomes, you can literally throw to anybody in that offense and things will still, they may not run as smoothly as with Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce, but this is a Browns team where I'm looking at this. They obviously, as a team, you want to do the best you can, but they have no shot, to be honest.
Well,
I mean, think they have a shot.
I think they have like a little bit of a shot. I wouldn't say they don't have a shot at all.
Mm-hmm.
That offense is too electric. They're going to the AFC Championship.
Okay. Well, if the Chiefs
so is Baker's offense. He has 2 All-Pro type of running backs in his backfield. He has a Pro Bowl-ish wide receiver in Jarvis Landry, 2 good tight ends in Hooper and
I think one of the best lines in the game.
And hopefully Joe Bitonio can come back, and hopefully the right tackle for Cleveland comes back because they were all good this season. Like Cleveland's line is vastly underrated. I think Chris Jones will have a hard time, but I think he might get a sack. As long as Baker doesn't turn the ball over and is pretty like the way he's been right now, they have a chance because what I've been seeing from Cleveland's defense, sure, they've given up a lot of points, but the way they're playing that defense, it's kind of like cover 2-ish where they have 2 safeties up top. And for some reason, Kansas City struggles with that. So if they don't give up anything deep, they have to settle with intermediate routes, like medium routes. I think Cleveland can come away with a victory. Just time possession, controlling the clock, and running the ball effectively with Chubb and Hunt. They can come away with the victory. I could see it.
I think so. I think we can both agree their pass offense for Cleveland is not their strength. It's with their rushing game.
Yeah.
And it's it's the majority of what is actually gotten, along with Baker Mayfield not turning the ball over, of why they have 11 wins this season. So do you think honestly that the Cleveland Browns running the ball 30 to 40 times is going to be able to keep up with Patrick Mahomes getting the ball down the field in 2 minutes?
Yes. Depending on who's controlling time.
You think that'll be able to keep up with that offense?
Well, you saw what Hunt and Chubb were capable of last night. They were breaking tackles.
Last night?
Or not last night,
Yeah,
Sunday. They were
Sunday.
breaking tackles on the Steelers defense.
They only had a combined just a little bit over 100 yards.
Well,
But to be fair, they didn't have to do much.
The defense basically did for them. They got the picks, and it was in Steelers territory when they got those picks.
Big Ben was basically handling the game.
Because Ben Roethlisberger was through 4 picks. Do you see Patrick Mahomes throwing 4 picks and just handing them the game?
I can see him throwing
Absolutely
3,
not.
depending on. I can see him doing that.
I say 2 or 3 because you saw that Miami game. He threw 2 to Byron. What was it?
Not Byron. He threw 1 to Xavier Howard, 1 to Eric Rowe, and I don't remember the other one.
So he threw 3.
Yeah, I just don't remember the third one off the top of my head.
Right, but that's Miami. This is Cleveland.
Yeah.
It's been the pass defense, which like I said, has been shaky all year, has not been able to get pressure on the quarterback. They do have Myles Garrett, but they'll be able. They should be able to contain him to the point where they should be able to pull out a comfortable victory. I think if we look at these 2 teams, which team has a legitimate shot at making the Super Bowl, I give the Bills a much better shot. They have a passing offense and an all-around offense and solid defense that pretty much matches up with Kansas City's, and they could easily keep up in the passing game. I think it'll be a shootout, but I think I give the Bills a solid shot to upset the Chiefs and head to Super Bowl 55.
But they're facing the Ravens, which is a much more difficult matchup. As much as a Ravens fan I am, I can tell you that the Bills haven't been good at stopping the run. They just aren't that. And if they're facing a Ravens-led team, that is their one thing to do. If you can't stop that, we'll be running power, and toss until you stop it. And if they can't stop it, it's going to be a long game because we could easily score 30 with just doing that against the Bills. And the Bills don't necessarily have a good running attack either because Zach Moss is now injured. So it's basically Devin Singletary and maybe Josh Allen if he decides to run. So I think it's going to be a lot tougher than you think, but I'd still probably give it more towards the Bills than the Browns right now because it is Kansas City they were going up against.
I think the Bills get a better shot. I agree. It's going to be a tough game for the Bills this divisional round, but I think this is a game that the Bills deserve to be favored in. And I think the matchup is going to be tough, but I think the Bills come out with a victory. And I think I give them a real shot to go into Kansas City, win the AFC Championship, win that Lamar Hunt trophy, and go into their first Super Bowl since back in the 90s when they lost their last 4. But I pick them to get there.
I can't do it. It's either the Ravens or the Kansas City Chiefs for me.
Ravens or Chiefs? Well,
because I see them playing in the AFC Championship game.
I mean, I understand Justin. I mean, that could go either way. But when he says that, I'm thinking, the Bills, they had a tough time against the Colts, and the Ravens, it all depends on the run.
And also, if Josh Allen plays the fourth quarter like he did against the Colts, he's not winning that game. No.
I didn't see the game, but
he didn't look too good coming down the stretch.
When the Bills defense might be a little bit confusing because it's either going to be a rush with Lamar cutting on the outside, or it's going to be handoff to Dobbins or Edwards trying to go on the inside. So they would have to do both. On that defense, would basically have to do both. They have to cover the outside and the inside of the run. So it might be difficult for them. So yes, it could go either way because the Bills also have a good offense. The defense for the Ravens, though, is also good. That can go either way. And I understand why Justin's saying the Ravens and the Chiefs. But I also have to agree with Adam that the Bills have a great, talented team. And I think that they could maybe get past Kansas City if they don't play like they did against the Colts.
All right.
Yeah. So I think you're putting too much into that fourth quarter. I mean, they got ahead, and it's at that point where they kind of just coast. Now, I think they let their. I agree. They put their foot off. They let their foot off the gas
You
pedal
can't do that in
too
the
much in that
playoffs.
game, but it's they were already way ahead.
Yeah, but you
And
can't
also,
do that in the playoffs.
yeah, you can't coast in the playoffs and then fumble in the pivotal fourth quarter. You can't do that, Josh Allen. As a matter of fact, he almost cost him the game doing that. Oh, he got lucky.
Okay, it was a couple of things to improve on,
Yeah,
but
I'm not.
they
I'm not saying
overall
he'll have a
you
bad
get
game. It's just things I look at like, oh, it's going to be. Isn't there's chances here?
you also have to look at that Colts defense this year. That's been one of the best defenses in the league this year.
Yeah,
So
but
for him to put up over 300 yards and 3 total touchdown passes, a quarterback rating over 120, that's impressive.
mm,
He's this is and this is a Colts defense that has actually performed for a lot of the year better than the Ravens defense at times. And the Ravens defense is getting healthy, but let's see where things wind up going. I think they have a I think they deserve to be favored, and I think they're going to the AFC Championship.
okay, that's fine.
All right. So, moving on to our next segment, we have Tom Brady and Drew Brees matching up in this divisional round. So each team beat their competitor in the wild card round. The Saints beating the Bears and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers beating the Washington football team, both putting up solid amount of points. So Brady versus Breeze, we're gonna get a solid matchup coming up here.
Mm-hmm.
So looking back at these two teams, at these two players' legacies, who would you say has overall had the better career?
That gee, that's a tough one right there. I mean, 6 Super Bowls to 1.
Who? Oh.
Geez, this is a tough one here. Who's had the better career? We all know it's Tom Brady.
So I guess a better question would be looking at these two players' legacies. How would you say they stack? How would you say they stack up against each other? What went differently for each player, and how did these players get to where they are today? So
Ooh.
Brady, he had a fairly in the early going of his career, happy childhood, won 3 of his first 4 seasons starting, 3 Super Bowls. To me, Drew Brees has been a player who's been more, who when he was in San Diego put up solid stats, but then it seems like for him losing the job to Phillip Rivers was almost a blessing in disguise, and I'll tell you why. He's now a dome quarterback who gets the benefit of playing literally half his career in a dome to play more. And statistically, you see that it's night and day outside the dome and in the dome versus in the dome. And these two players, I mean, Brady, he does very well in the elements, and he's still good without the elements, obviously. So looking at comparing these two, how they have gotten to the great numbers that they have, I'm obviously more impressed with Brady. But I mean, if you look at Breeze, there's a couple. It looks like there's a couple of reasons, couple big factors as to why he is where he is. I mean, you can even look at the player when he has missed time. He's gone through some injuries, and the team still wins without him.
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder if it's just a fact that he has targets to throw to consistently, and he is in a dome for most of his career.
Mm-hmm. As far as comparisons between the two, early in his career, Tom Brady did win 3 Super Bowls, but that was more considering his defense more so than himself. I believe those were the main contributing factors towards it. Drew Brees, up and coming, he was a second-round pick, but he's more of a fringe first-rounder because I think he was the 33rd overall pick by the San Francisco 49 with LT in the same draft. So they were an up and coming as the Patriots were already a playoff team under, the former quarterback before Brady came in. So before the injury happened, where Phillip Rivers took over, he was playing considerably well. He wasn't a dome quarterback. He was playing out in the elements and still putting up decent numbers behind a all-pro type running back. And then the injury happens, and they decide to move on. He decides to go to New Orleans, and the rest is history. I believe Drew Brees is unfairly maligned in some cases because from 2015 to until 2017 when he actually got a defense, that defense was horrendous. Oh my! I remember one time in 2015 where the Saints were going up against the Giants. The score was 52-49. That should not happen. That should not happen. That's just ridiculous. So I understand why Drew Brees didn't make the playoffs for a 3-year stretch because his defense was just god awful. But as far as comparison careers, I don't think it's really fair because the comparison stopped with 6 Super Bowl rings. There's not really much to compare after that. Brees has all the major stats you need, but as far as accomplishments, he's severely lacking in them. He doesn't have that much postseason production because of certain things that happened before and during the playoffs that is not his fault. And I think he's severely maligned for it. In a 3-year stretch, you had the Minneapolis Miracle, horrendous non-pass interference call, and then another pass interference call that didn't get called. So it's can we really blame Brees for any of those things? Nah, I just can't do it.
Right. So, how about his interceptions, though?
I think that's more so of him trying to take more chances and not relying on the run game. I think that's more so of that because they're more heavier towards the pass, just based on Sean Payton and Drew Brees' style of play.
Haven't the Patriots been more pass heavy during Brady's tenure, and the Bucs as well?
Not really. I mean, if you consider it, mid-years, sure, but he still had 1,000-yard running backs in New England.
Well, so is Drew Brees.
Yeah,
with Alvin Kamara.
That was back in 2017. But if we're looking at 2014, 2015, 2016, he was yoking that thing. I wouldn't say he had a consistent running attack from year to year until they got Alvin Kamara and decided to use Mark Ingram more, which they should have.
Well, they were using Mark Ingram during the time.
But not as much as they should have because he was sharing carries with Tim Hightower and a bunch of other people, which was ridiculous. Once Alvin Kamara got in, that's when you saw Mark Ingram get more and more carries.
And Tim Hightower was getting carries, but it was an obvious majority of carries with Mark Ingram. He was the lead back. I mean, he had several 1,000-yard seasons. He wound up becoming a sidecar to Alvin Kamara once his career started to get going. But overall, that run game, in fact, going in the late 2010s, that run game was probably the strength of that Saints offense. But
no.
Brees was yes, it was.
No, in 2010s?
The late 2010s. Yes, it was.
The late 2010s. Oh, you're talking late. I was about to say early 2010s. You're losing me.
Like the Drew. Once Alvin Kamara got there, and they had Mark Ingram to go along with him, they
I agree with that.
A two-headed monster at running back.
Mhm.
And at the receiver position, they never had a number 2 guy. They just had Michael Thomas. Michael Thomas is a solid receiver. He's a great receiver, but it's obvious that the run game was better than the passing offense. You need a number 2 guy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think. Oh wait, I don't even think Jared Cook was there yet. So yeah.
Oh, he wasn't.
I think
he got there.
He came the year after that.
He was with the Raiders. And
in 2017.
His 3rd year playing with the Saints.
He came in 2018.
Yeah.
So he missed 2017 when they first became good with the running attack with Kamara and Ingram. So it was just Michael Thomas carrying the load on offense, basically, as far as the receiving. They had Willie Snead then, but they weren't using him as much for some reason. I just can't remember.
I think it's the injuries, because I think Willie Snead was injured a lot during those seasons.
Probably. But they relied less on the pass and more on the run, and they got better results. Because they actually – and a thing that goes unnoticed, Ryan Ramczyk was also part of that draft class with Alvin Kamara and Marshawn Lattimore. So they got steals in that draft class.
Right. I agree. Didn't they also have Lattimore in that same draft?
Yep.
Yeah, I said that.
Marshawn Lattimore?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was a great draft for them.
Mm-hmm.
Their defenses weren't great, but I mean, I've seen plenty of years where there was an iffy defense, but the Patriots were still able to go to the Super Bowl. 2011, that
didn't win.
Defense that's widely regarded as one of the worst defenses to make a Super Bowl. 2017, which the Super Bowl 52, which is also widely regarded as one of the biggest letdowns of a defense in Super Bowl history, where they allowed over 300 yards and 3 touchdown passes to a backup quarterback,
Nicky Foles.
And they still had a chance to win both games because the other guy that they had was able to keep them in the game.
All right, 2 things. Number 1, that AFC Championship game, don't ever remind me, because I swear to you, the Ravens should have won that game if Lee Evans catches that pass. But we don't talk about those things around here. Number 2,
that stuff happens.
Tom Brady kept them in the game, but he's also the reason they lost because he fumbled. And also Malcolm Butler wasn't playing. So I believe that had some impact on the game. I don't know why he didn't play, but he didn't play.
Nick Foles threw an interception, but we don't talk about that.
Yeah.
You know why? Because
they won. They
exactly
won.
Because they won.
And it didn't happen in the 4th quarter.
Okay, so
the game is on the line. You can't fumble on your own half.
If you throw 500 yards and 3 touchdown passes, you should win the game.
All right, then. So why didn't Big Ben win that game?
Why didn't
Big Ben win the game against the Browns?
Picks.
All right, then.
4 picks. You're comparing.
That's what happens. You don't win the game.
You're comparing 1 turnover to 4 turnovers. In fact, I think he turned it over 5 times. He fumbled it too. So
he didn't fumble. Marquise Pouncey just threw it over his head.
He could have still recovered that.
James Garner didn't recover it either, so I don't know who.
Neither of them did. But still, they turned the ball over.
I can't give you that
5 times. 5 times. You can't compare that to 1 turnover. Quarterbacks turn the ball over every now and then. That happens. But to say like, oh, he turned it over once, so they're the reason. How about the defense that allowed Nick Foles to look like Peyton Manning?
Yeah, no.
To look like the guy he was facing, Tom Brady.
I'm sorry. Nick Foles can catch. Tom Brady cannot, apparently.
Well, all right, we're not going to go there. That's even worse. That makes it even worse.
Your QB
defense was so bad that they not only allowed 3 touchdown passes to a backup quarterback, but they allowed a touchdown reception to a backup quarterback. So
That
you
works.
cannot give
The
me
Eagles,
this.
the Eagles
Well,
almost did. The Eagles almost gave up a reception to a quarterback. But if somehow a drop pass didn't happen, let's move on. Let's move on. I'm not going to continue this with Brady. I
so
will say this: this will be an interesting matchup because if Brady loses again, that's 3 in a row that he's lost to Breeze.
And I'm going to do this right now. I'm going to give it to Breeze.
Ooh.
Because I see even though like everybody keeps saying playoff Brady,
Mhm.
but I see playoff Brady last year with Tennessee. So therefore,
Don't bring that up. That would.
what I saw against him in the first game that they played each other, Brady was there. The second game, not at all. He just every time when he kept getting pressure, that's all that defense has to do.
it's tough throwing to Jacoby Myers and N'Keal Harry, isn't it?
Okay, well, we're talking about now. Yes, I know. Yeah, N'Keal Harry.
I'm not going to hold it against
All right.
him last year.
But what I'm talking about now with Brady, he cannot make mistakes like just fling the ball up in the air when he's getting pass rush. He has to throw it either out of bounds or to a guy that's like widely open. And he did that like about 3 or 4 times in that game.
The
And
issue with
cost him picks.
the
Well,
issue with him the issue with him isn't the turnovers. It's being able to stay on his feet. It's the offensive line. If they this is the key to the Bucks if they are able to win or not. Every year it has been if you can keep Tom Brady on his feet, if he's not on his ass for half of the game, then they will win. Because he is smart enough that he's able to read any defense, no matter how tough. And you can look over the course of his career. When you have the Legion of Boom, he picks them apart for over 300 yards and 4 touchdown passes. He picks off that allegedly great Jacksonville defense for 3 touchdown passes and 300 yards. He picks apart that top 5 ranked Eagles defense for 500 yards and 3 touchdown passes. He actually had an underrated game against that legendary, historic Denver Broncos defense, going with an injured Rob Gronkowski and Julian Edelman with a plate in his foot. Even though Tom Brady was on his ass in that game over and over again, sacked 5 times.
They were going up against a Peyton Manning who couldn't throw the ball 20 yards.
If he is able to stay on his feet and be able to throw it consistently, they will win. But that is the issue because they were not able to do that these past couple games. They were forced to get Antonio Brown involved in that last game. They threw this whole team into the mix without any preseason or OTAs in week 1. So let's see how this game goes. If he is able to stay on his feet, if this offensive line can do something for once, they will win.
Okay. All right. You can make a case for the offense, but what can you make a case for the defense?
I was about to say.
The defense?
Because on the other side, on that offense of the Saints, you got Kamara, the best running back in the league right now.
Arguable.
Smith, Jared Cook. I don't know if Latavius Murray's playing. That defense is garbage right now because they keep heavily the quarterback, and that's not good. When you have your linebackers, if you have your front end blitzing all the time, Breeze can easily just get it out of the pocket quickly, throw it to Michael Thomas, throw it to Alvin Kamara, throw it to Jared Cook, Traquan Smith, whoever. He will pick apart that defense as well.
Yeah.
So there's another key, is that not only do they need to keep Brady untouched, but they also need to touch Drew Brees.
Yeah, and they couldn't even do that last game.
But
couldn't do that.
Drew Brees,
31-3. He couldn't even do it. I think they got like 1 or 2 sacks on him. And how many did Brady get? He got many. He kept getting pressured. He kept throwing picks.
Yep.
Like that's all that Saints defense needs to do, and the Saints defense just needs to get out of the ball quicker if Todd Bowles decides to blitz heavily in the offense.
And Brady doesn't have a right guard anymore. He lost his right guard against the Washington football team, so he's going to struggle there. And if they put Ted Hendrickson on that side, it's going to be a problem.
And Tristan Wirfs, to me, like, even though he's a rookie, I
good.
can't really give him. He's gone through like the toughest line in the game. Yes, he's hanging in there, but can he hang in there against like Cameron Jordan, guys like Cameron Jordan?
Veterans, maybe
guys
not.
First, but Hendrickson and what's his name? Marcus Davenport. Can he hang in there with them? I don't know. I mean, but like, it all depends with that line at. I'm like if you want to keep Brady off his ass, then that line needs to step up.
That's what I'm saying. Do something. That offensive line, do something for once. It's a very average offensive line, and it's been frustrating me all season. When they're able to, and you can see it. You can see the results.
And
when
Tom
Brady is able to stay on his feet, he can beat any defense.
Mm-hmm.
Problem is, they are not keeping him on his feet all the time.
Tristan Wirfs has been playing good. I will give him credit.
Looks good.
Has been, but
I don't know what's going on with them.
But it takes a whole offensive line, not just Tristan Wirfs. That center is a moron.
Ryan Jensen, the former Raven, he's fine. He's doing all right.
He's a moron. They're just such an undisciplined football team. It's going to take more than one season for Brady to change that culture. They have such a losing culture, that franchise.
Yeah, but they do get Devin White back now, coming back from COVID, so that's another good thing.
Right. All right, so moving on, we have the Rams. They pull off an upset over the Seahawks.
Congrats.
Goff was playing with a broken thumb, just coming off of his surgery. So the Seahawks lose yet another playoff game.
Mm-hmm.
So since this 2013 season where they won the Super Bowl, they've been competitive through the entirety of these 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
But the issue is they've always come up short every single time. And they've had some solid teams that they've fielded over the years. So you wonder, why do they keep on falling short? So basically, what the question I'm asking here is, what the hell is wrong with the Seahawks?
I can answer that. Their
some years just wasn't it.
Their offensive line and their defense. Their defense has been garbage all year. Don't know why. Because I thought Jamal Adams was a pretty good pickup for them. I thought that defense would be like a top 10 defense, but it wasn't for some reason. Their offensive line wasn't even there at all. And it forced Russell Wilson to have I think 13 picks this season or something like that. And if you have guys on the line who can't even guard or protect Russell Wilson, what do you think Aaron Donald's going to do?
What do you think Leonard Floyd's going to do?
Yeah, same. Yeah, both of them. Like those two will just rip them apart.
Mm-hmm.
No matter who it is, they'll rip them.
So when you look at that defense. So I agree with you on the offensive line, but that defense has gotten better as the season has gone on.
Yeah,
it was horrible in the beginning of the year. It's gotten better. The main reason, and I'm talking about in general in these past few years since they won their last championship, is that they have everything else. They've had good defenses. They've had a good passing game. They've had serviceable to very good running game, even ever since they lost Marshawn Lynch. So the main issue is their offensive line, and I think another issue is when you have DK Metcalf, who is basically looking for he's thirsty for targets. And I mean, I look at this statistic that I found when we were planning this episode yesterday. Russell Wilson completed 11 passes. Okay. DK Metcalf had 5 receptions. So DK Metcalf caught almost half of Russell Wilson's passes. And Metcalf had 11 targets. The rest of the team combined, 15 combined targets.
Mm-hmm.
So he had nearly half of their targets. Russell Wilson, Metcalf had more than half of Russell Wilson's passing yards. He accounted for half of them, and he did throw a pick, and he was sacked 5 times. So what I get out of this is that the entire time he was waiting and sitting there in the pocket, waiting for DK Metcalf to get open and forcing it to him. That is not something you can do. You have Tyler Lockett to throw to. You have Will Dissly to throw to. You have running backs you can throw to. You can run the ball. They have Chris Carson. So don't act like DK Metcalf is the only target on your team. You need to throw to more players. I get your offensive line isn't great, but don't just sit there waiting for DK Metcalf and praying he's going to be open on every play, because he's not. No player is always open, no matter how great they are. And the fact that you think that you can just huck it up to him 11 times and win the game is unrealistic.
I don't know what to say with Russell Wilson here. I mean, that's not like a guy I see throwing that many. I mean, I saw what he was capable of when he actually won the Super Bowl. Like, he was giving it to Doug Baldwin a lot. He was giving it to who else did he have? He had Marshawn Lynch in the backfield. Like, he had guys to throw to, and he equally, I think that offense equally shared the receptions and the runs that they gave him. What I saw was not Russell Wilson, just throwing it to one guy in particular, relying on one guy in particular, and yes, I agree with you. He has Carson in the backfield. He has Tyler Lockett, who was probably like a top 20 wide receiver, I would say. He has Will Dissly or Greg Olsen. I don't know if they split time or something like that. And then I think I forgot his first name, something more, but I don't know.
David
Moore. David. Yeah, he's a. I think he was an undrafted receiver, but he's a talented guy. Like, I think he's talented to be like.
Also Jacob Hollister.
So that's why I don't know why he was targeting DK Metcalf a lot when you know he's the best receiver on the team. Who do you think is going to be on him? Jalen Ramsey, the best corner in the league. So I don't know why he was doing that. I couldn't even tell you what Russell Wilson was thinking while he was throwing to DK Metcalf so many times.
Well, he is their go-to guy, so they're going to go to their go-to guy. I just think that when you target him as much as you do, they still have Tyler Lockett was still a solid receiver this year, one of their best receivers. So you have to throw it to some other players. I get it. DK Metcalf is a beast, but you need to be able to spread the ball around a little more. I get it. Your go-to guy is DK Metcalf. He's an unbelievable receiver. He's had a historically great year on his second year in the league, and he has a great future. But you need to be able to scrape your everything together and be able to do what you can to win the football game. And it doesn't always mean going to your number one guy all the time, especially when, like you said, Jalen Ramsey is on him.
Yeah, and even like with Lockett on the field, I know who's guarding him half that game. It was like Nickel Robbie Coleman, I think his name was. He's an okay corner, but give it to Lockett, all right? You need to give him more than 4 receptions. DK Metcalf, I understand he's a beast. He can't be that good. Especially going up against the best corner in the game. He can't be that good.
Well, he is, but
give it to Lockett.
I think he's young, and I think nobody can be open on every play, not even some of the all-time great wide receivers. Just look at the Green Bay Packers right now. I know Devontae Adams gets targeted a lot, but what you do see when you look at film is that when you see that Devontae Adams is covered, Aaron Rodgers looks for an Alan Lazard. He looks for Valdez Scantling. He finds a Robert Tonyan wide open. So he throws it up to them rather than just forcing it to Devontae Adams on every play. He targets him a lot because he's open a lot, but he's not open all the time. And Rodgers notices that. He recognizes it, and he throws elsewhere.
And
because
that's what I like about
when they have such tight coverage on Devontae Adams that somebody is going to be left open. So throw to the open man and win the game. Don't force it to your number one guy all the time. It's going to get you sacked. It's going to throw picks, and it's going to lose you playoff games.
In Russell's defense, DK wasn't helping him at all. DK was getting upset at the sidelines because of what Jalen Ramsey was doing to him in like the first half. And outside of that 51-yard like coverage breakdown touchdown, he really didn't do all that much all game. So it's like, DK, you got to like control your emotions while you're on the sideline, because the Rams will see that and put that to their advantage. So you got to just be better about it and try to come back next time and be a little more careful.
Yeah, you could refer back to like Antonio Brown, like when he was throwing tantrums on the sideline. Teams looked at that because he was getting frustrated with the corner he was getting covered by. Like I understand DK needs to control his emotions on the sideline if he's not getting the ball or not. But I'm surprised Tyler Lockett didn't say something at the end of the game. 4 receptions in that playoff game when he should have gotten more. I'm surprised by that.
He's more of a team player. Metcalf might not be if he's asking for all these targets. I mean, I get it. You want the ball in the playoffs, but you also need to do what's best for the team. And maybe if Lockett was targeted a little more, if they spread the ball out a little more, they could have come away with a victory. But they didn't. They targeted Metcalf 11 times, and they targeted Lockett 4 times. Mm-hmm. That's not good.
And how many times did Chris Moore get targeted? Or David Moore, I mean?
Well, the rest of the team had a combined 9 targets. The rest of the team had a combined 9 targets.
Yeah, so, what does that tell you? David Moore, to me, could be a great wide receiver for you, and you don't use him as much because you keep just hucking the ball up to Metcalf. You don't do that, especially in a playoff game. You never do that. You don't rely on one guy.
He's decent, but I wouldn't say great for David.
I wouldn't say great.
We're pushing it here.
We're pushing it. He has Lockett. He has other serviceable guys. David Moore, Jacob Hollister. He can still throw to the running backs. He can throw to Chris Carson. He can throw to Will Dissly. They have a lot of options in there, and I think it was the wrong thing to do you need to, especially when you have an offensive line that works the way it does, or doesn't, or lack thereof of working the way it does. But you need to spread the ball out a lot more. I give Russell Wilson a little bit more of the benefit of the doubt. So this could be more on DK Metcalf just wanting more carries, because we know what Russell Wilson is. We know he's a quarterback. We know typically his favorite wide receiver is the open wide receiver. That's how he was able to discover Tyler Lockett as this late round draft pick, who was a special teams player when he first started out, and now he's one of their best receivers. He needs to go back to doing that, or at least be able to develop this relationship with Metcalf and be like, look, dude, I love you. I love throwing to you, but we need to win the game. And sometimes that doesn't always involve throwing it to you. Mm-hmm. All right? So, just basic stuff there. Will they do it? No idea. They haven't been able to win in 7 years.
Wilson also had Carlos Hyde, too. That's another guy he could throw it to. Carlos Hyde's a good back out of the backfield. He's shown that with San Francisco. He could easily... that, I don't know. I don't know what to say with Russell Wilson.
I don't know. All right, so that'll be it for us tonight. Tune in. Make sure you tune in to our next week's episode, where we will be recapping the divisional round and previewing the conference championships. So we have a very exciting couple weeks coming up in this playoff time. So make sure you follow us on YouTube. Make sure you follow us on Instagram at Fumblerooski_podcast. And we'll see you guys next week. Have a good night.
Bye.